Welcome to the deep dive. We grab stacks of fascinating sources and basically pull out the key insights just for you. Today, we're plunging into artificial intelligence.ai. It's everywhere, right? And we tend to think of it as, well, objective, neutral tech, just processing data, giving unbiased answers. But what if that's not quite the full story? What if it's missing something big? We're going to explore that, how AI isn't just tech, but it's actually built within our existing societal power structures. We're drawing on some really powerful insights from Gerardo Jovan and Giovanni Oyovan, specifically their work, Foucault, Power, Knowledge, and Bias in AI.
Yeah, it's such a crucial lens to use. Thinking about AI in terms of power and knowledge, it really helps understand the actual impact it has.
Yeah.
Its real-world effect. It pushes us beyond just the purely technical side of things. We start seeing the societal implications.
Exactly. So that's our mission for this deep dive. Really unpack how AI gets shaped by power relations, how that leads to very real biases, and maybe why fixing these problems needs more than just, tweaking the code. Okay, so let's dig in. If AI isn't just this objective thing, what does that actually mean? How does it change how we see it being built and used?
Right. That's the core idea. Foucault's concept, power knowledge, when you apply that to AI, it really highlights how AI is always constructed within existing social institutional power relationships. And what's really key here is that these power dynamics, they don't just hover around the AI, they actively shape what counts as knowledge in the first place.
Yeah.
What data is relevant, how it's structured, how it gets interpreted by the system. And another thing, the way modern AI often leans so heavily on abstraction, well, that kind of implicitly lets control over the tech sit mainly with big companies, with experts. And this can mean that the needs, the concerns of the communities the AI is actually supposed to serve,
Yeah.
they get sidelined or maybe undermined.
Okay, so bring this down to the ground for us. For you listening right now, maybe interacting with AI daily or feeling its effects, what does this mean practically? What's the so what?
Well, it means that as more and more decisions get handed off from diverse human groups to automated algorithms,
Yeah.
especially when deployed at scale,
Mhm.
the clarity around who's actually making the decision, who holds the power, and who they're accountable to,
Mm.
it starts to fade. It gets murky.
So it becomes less clear who's responsible.
Exactly. And this kind of obfuscation, this lack of transparency in AI, it carries a really significant risk, a potential erosion of, well, fundamental values, freedoms even.
And this isn't just abstract theory, is it? We're seeing real-world proof of this bias. There's quite a bit of empirical evidence showing bias in machine learning models.
Oh, absolutely. Study after study finds statistically significant evidence. It's not just one thing either. The bias comes from lots of different factors across the whole machine learning pipeline. It could be the data itself, historical biases
Yeah.
baked right in, or the way the algorithm is designed. And what's really important is that the bias doesn't just sit there. It gets perpetuated, amplified even. When those machine predictions get used by people, by institutions, it creates this feedback loop.
Right, reinforcing the initial problem.
Precise.
Can you give us some concrete examples, something that really makes this clear for people listening?
Sure. Take facial recognition used in policing. Research shows accuracy isn't uniform across demographics. It varies quite a bit. For instance, studies have shown that darker-skinned men face a higher error rate when the algorithm tries to classify their gender compared to, say, lighter-skinned individuals.
Wow. Okay, that's stark.
Yeah, it shows the algorithms aren't just seeing neutrally. Or think about hiring. Some commercial recruitment tools, they're trained on past hiring data.
Right. Historical data.
Exactly. And if that history includes biases, conscious or unconscious, against certain genders or races, well, the AI learns those patterns. It learns to favor the same kind of candidates favored in the past, which just reinforces the existing inequity.
Another feedback loop.
Exactly. So connecting it back, these aren't just like little glitches or bugs. They're systemic. They reflect the very structures, the societal contexts where the AI is created and deployed.
That's a really powerful point. And related to this, there's the whole issue of black box AI systems. What does that term mean for transparency, for our ability to even understand why an AI made a certain decision?
Right. Black docs. It usually refers to these really complex AI architectures, things like deep neural networks. The problem is they make it incredibly difficult to trace how they arrive at a specific conclusion. It's generally very hard to sort of reverse engineer their internal logic. They give you an output, an answer, but not really the step-by-step reasoning.
So you get the what, but not the why.
Pretty much. And that poses huge challenges for transparency, especially when these black box systems are making decisions in really critical areas. Think about loan applications or medical diagnoses or even criminal justice decisions.
Yeah, high-stakes situation.
Exactly. The reasoning often just isn't available or easily explainable to the person who's affected by the outcome.
So, if the system's logic is opaque, even to the user, perhaps, what does that mean for the person on the receiving end? How can they contest a decision if they don't know how it was made?
That's precisely the issue. And it ties back, interestingly, to Foucault's ideas about power. He saw power not just as top-down, but dispersed through society. This opacity in AI, it can seriously shrink the avenues for accountability because the power isn't just with one person anymore. It's distributed out to the edges, you could say, to these opaque algorithms, the hidden infrastructure running things.
Ah, so the power becomes harder to pin down.
Right. So governing this kind of automated power, overseeing it, it demands new ways of doing things. Mechanisms that specifically allow for transparency, for ways to contest these algorithmic decisions. Because the old ways of finding who's accountable,
Yeah.
they might just not work anymore.
Okay, this definitely sounds challenging. So what can we actually do about all this? Are there solutions being worked on to, reduce the bias and make things more transparent?
Yes, definitely. And it's important to talk about those. People are absolutely working on technical fixes. Things like optimizing the data, choosing algorithms more carefully, improving the machine learning techniques themselves. These are imperative steps, no question.
Yeah.
But, and this is the critical insight, these technical solutions, while they're necessary, they're not enough on their own.
Okay, so it's not just a matter of coding better or finding cleaner data. There's more to it.
Much more. A lot of researchers, engineers too, are now pushing for what they call participatory solutions.
Participatory, what does that involve?
It means actively bringing the affected communities, the people who will actually use or be impacted by the AI, into the process, right from the start, into the design, the development, the deployment phases.
I see. So involving them directly.
Exactly. The goal is to proactively build in fairness, to mitigate bias from the beginning, not just try to patch it later. It means thinking about ethical and social concerns as core parts of the system's architecture. And it also suggests maybe even building fairness itself as a performance metric, something you test for, just like you test for accuracy or error rates.
That makes a lot of sense. Measure what you value.
Right. But then this leads to a really important question. If we kind of know these participatory approaches could help, why aren't we seeing them implemented more widely?
That is a good question. And related to that, what about all the ethical frameworks and AI principles we hear about? Lots of companies and organizations have them. Don't those help?
Ah, yes. The principles.
Yeah.
We saw a big wave of those around, 2018? Lots of development, ethical frameworks, codes of conduct, and the intention was good, absolutely. But honestly, they've been largely unsuccessful in driving real change in implementation or oversight on the ground.
Really? Why is that?
Well, their impact has mostly been limited to sort of high-level regulatory discussions among experts.
Yeah.
They haven't really trickled down effectively to other levels of AI governance or how society interacts with these systems. There's even this term, principle creep.
Principle creep.
Yeah, it describes this growing feeling, this consensus almost, that because we have principles, the ethical problems are being handled, when in reality, they're often not.
So a false sense of security.
Kind of. And one big reason they lack teeth is that principles usually rely on individuals having the authority to actually implement them. And enforcement, it's often quite weak. But the fundamental problem, maybe the deepest one, is that principles alone, they just can't operate at the structural level.
The structural level.
Yeah, the level that actually defines the whole operational environment, the institutions, the ingrained processes surrounding AI. Principles struggle to change that. So they lack the kind of sustained, deep impact needed to really influence these complex systems over the long term. Relying just on principles on paper, it's just not an effective way to oversee the real social impact of algorithms. What's needed is more ongoing institutional work, embedded processes.
Wow. Okay, that was a really, really eye-opening deep dive. This complex dance between AI, power, society. So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for us navigating this AI-shaped world?
I think the main thing is seeing how Foucault's framework, this power knowledge idea, really illuminates what's happening with AI. It shows these deep connections between how AI systems gain influence and the implications of that dominance, especially around bias, transparency, accountability. It just hammers home that AI isn't some neutral tool that dropped out of the sky. It's a product of our society. It reflects our structures, our values, our power dynamics, warts and all.
That's such a critical point to remember. So, as AI gets woven deeper into our lives, maybe the question we need to ask isn't just, can this AI do X?
Mm,
But maybe more importantly, who decided it should do X in the first place? And whose values, whose priorities are embedded in that decision? Something to definitely think about as you interact with technology every day.